The morning sun reflected off rows of polished luxury cars like flashes from a camera, making Hudson Luxury Auto look more like a jewelry showcase than a dealership. Engines purred in the background as salesmen chatted with wealthy buyers dressed in designer suits and high heels. Everything here smelled like money, or at least the expectation of it. Across the lot, a dusty work truck rolled in, its paint chipped from years under the Texas sun. The driver door opened with a squeak, and Darius Cole, 28, climbed out slowly, stretching his tired muscles after a long week on construction sites. His clothes told his story before he said a word. Faded t-shirt with concrete stains, steel-toe boots scuffed from thousands of steps, dirt still under his nails from the job he left just minutes ago. But when he looked at the dealership, his eyes weren't tired. They were proud. He'd been waiting for this moment. He locked his truck and pulled a thick, neatly folded envelope from his pocket, filled with hard-earned savings, years of overtime poured into stacks of cash. This wasn't a loan he hoped to get approved for. This was money he had bled for. With determined steps, he walked deeper into the showroom. His gaze locked onto a midnight blue sports car sitting under spotlights, polished so perfectly it looked like it was made of liquid metal. The leather seats, the sleek curves, the quiet promise of freedom. This wasn't just a car. It was a reward. His reward. He imagined handing his mother the keys for the first ride. He imagined pulling up to work and having the guys cheer for him instead of teasing him about his old truck. He imagined finally feeling like his life had moved forward. This car symbolized every sacrifice he ever made. He reached out to touch the hood, fingers barely grazing the cool, glossy surface, when a harsh voice sliced through the moment. "Hey, you can't be around that." Darius turned. A salesman in a tailored suit was walking toward him, scowl already in place. His name tag read, Rick, Senior Sales Advisor. Rick didn't smile, didn't offer a handshake, didn't even pretend to see Darius as a customer. His eyes narrowed on the dusty boots and dirt-stained shirt. Darius withdrew his hand from the car slowly. "I'm here to buy a vehicle," he said, steady and polite. Rick's laugh was instant and cruel, the kind of laugh meant to make someone feel small. Darius held the envelope tighter in his hand, cash inside proof that he belonged here, that he had earned a place in this world. Rick didn't know it yet, but he was about to learn, never judge a man by his clothes, because you might just underestimate a king in work boots. Rick planted himself directly between Darius and the sleek sports car, like a guard dog protecting something far too precious for the likes of him. He gave Darius a slow, exaggerated scan from boots to forehead, as if measuring the dirt on his clothes rather than the determination in his eyes. His smirk grew wider with each second. "Let me save you some time," Rick said, tone dripping with superiority. "This dealership doesn't have anything in your price range." Darius clenched his jaw but kept his voice calm. "You don't even know my price range. I said I'm here to buy." Rick laughed again, louder this time, making sure everyone within earshot knew who the joke was supposed to be. "Really? You think you're walking out of here with one of these?" He pointed toward the lineup of high-end cars, each shining like a trophy. "Most of these start at 90 grand, and that's before tax and fees. Do you even know what a down payment looks like?" Darius pulled the envelope halfway out of his pocket, just enough for Rick to see the thick wad of cash inside. Rick's smirk twitched, but only for a second before snapping back into superiority. "Cute," he scoffed. "Tip money from your job? Listen, buddy, this isn't some corner lot where you haggle over a beat-up sedan." Darius took a breath. He had stood toe-to-toe with arrogant men before, on job sites, in hardware stores, even sometimes in grocery aisles. But this was supposed to be different. This was supposed to be fun, a celebration. Instead, he was being talked to like trash for daring to dream bigger. "I want to test drive that one," Darius said firmly, pointing at the exact car he knew he wanted. Rick stepped forward until he was almost chest to chest with Darius, lowering his voice into a condescending whisper. "No, I'm not letting someone dressed like you sit in that vehicle. I'm here to protect our brand." Then he raised his voice again, loud enough for two other customers to turn and look. "Next time you want to window shop, take a shower first." A couple giggled. Someone shook their head. Heat rose in Darius's chest, not from embarrassment, but from righteous anger building like pressure beneath concrete. "I work hard every day," he said through controlled breath. You should treat every customer with respect. Rick scoffed, stepping back with a dramatic eye roll. You're not a customer, he snapped. You're a distraction. And if you don't leave, I'll get security to escort you out. Darius stared at him for a long moment, letting the silence reveal exactly who the real embarrassment was. He turned toward the exit, not defeated but boiling with a promise inside. One day, the world would learn what a man in work clothes was capable of. And that day was coming sooner than Rick expected. Darius turned away from the midnight blue dream car, feeling the heat of humiliation simmer beneath his skin like fresh asphalt in the Texas sun. His boots thudded softly against the gleaming showroom tiles, every step a reminder that, to them, he didn't belong here. Not because of money, but because of appearance. Rick strutted behind him with the smug swagger of a man who thought he'd just protected the dealership from a problem. Security's already on their way, he called out loudly, ensuring each word echoed across the room. We can't have just anybody wandering around the property. Just anybody. Darius kept his eyes forward, jaw locked, fists curling and uncurling at his sides, not from wanting to fight, but from stopping himself from showing even a crack of weakness. He refused to give Rick the satisfaction of seeing him break. As he neared the glass doors, two bulky security guards marched toward him, radios clipped to their shoulders, ready to remove the threat that dared to step on premium tiles and work boots. One guard stopped him with a raised hand. Sir, is there a problem here? Before Darius could speak, Rick answered for him, dripping venom. No problem now. He was confused. Doesn't realize he can't afford anything here. The security guard glanced at Darius's clothes, and that was all he needed to choose sides. Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. Something in Darius snapped, not anger, but resolve. He pulled out the envelope again, fully this time, letting the thick stacks of bills fan out like a challenge. You sure about that? He said, voice steady. The guard hesitated for a moment, just a moment, before Rick scoffed and snatched the envelope from the air. Probably full of singles, he mocked, flipping it open. His voice changed instantly. Silence swallowed the room. Dozens of $100 bills stared back at him in neat, crisp stacks. More cash than Rick had ever seen a customer casually carry. His fingers trembled as he forced a chuckle. Cute trick. Stole it from work or something? Darius grabbed the envelope back from his grip. I earned this, he stated, every syllable sharp as steel. Brick by brick, day by day. You just can't see success when it's not wearing a suit. Before Rick could respond, the glass doors slid open behind them with a soft chime, the kind of sound that announces someone important. A sleek black SUV glided up to the entrance. The door opened, and out stepped the man who would rewrite this moment entirely. The owner. Suddenly, everyone's posture changed. Backs straightened, faces smoothed into eager smiles. Security stepped aside, and as Rick rushed forward to greet the boss, Darius felt a shift in the air, because the owner didn't even slow down for Rick. His eyes were locked on the man Rick tried to push out. Darius! And Rick's confidence evaporated on the spot. Anderson stepped through the automatic doors with the confident stride of a man used to running empires. His tailored suit fit perfectly, shoes polished to a mirror shine. There was no rush in his pace, yet the entire dealership seemed to move faster the moment he arrived. Employees straightened their ties, pasted on fake smiles, and pretended they hadn't just been gossiping or scrolling through their phones seconds earlier. Rick practically sprinted toward him, arms out as if welcoming a celebrity. Sir, good morning. I was just handling... Mr. Anderson didn't even slow down. His eyes weren't scanning the showroom or inventory. They were locked directly on Darius, who stood halfway to the exit, envelope clutched in his hand, chest still tight with frustration. Darius! The owner called out, and the genuine warmth in his voice cut through the tension like sunlight breaking clouds. Glad you made it. Rick stopped mid-smile. Confusion froze his face. Darius blinked once, caught between disbelief and relief. Mr. Anderson, good to see you. The owner walked right past Rick and extended his hand to Darius. Firm, familiar, respectful. I've been expecting you. I got your message about wanting to upgrade. He said the word upgrade like it was something Darius deserved, not something he was reaching beyond. Rick's mouth fell halfway open. Wait, you two know each other? Mr. Anderson finally acknowledged him, but only to correct him sharply. Yes, Darius is one of the highest-rated foremen in the entire county. His crew just finished my lake house patio. He smiled proudly. Best craftsmanship I've seen in 20 years. The room went silent. Security guards suddenly found the ceiling very interesting. Other salesmen exchanged wide-eyed looks. A couple of customers stopped pretending not to eavesdrop. Rick's voice came out thin. Oh, I didn't realize. Mr. Anderson raised a brow at him. What exactly didn't you realize, Rick? Rick swallowed, but nothing sensible came out. Before he could embarrass himself further, Mr. Anderson turned to Darius with excitement. So, which one were you looking at? Darius glanced back toward the midnight blue sports car, the one Rick had practically physically blocked him from approaching. That one, he said quietly. Mr. Anderson lit up. Excellent choice. Top performance, smooth ride, and you'll look damn good behind the wheel. He tapped the roof of the car with pride. Let's get you inside for a test drive. Rick stepped forward, desperate to salvage authority. I can assist with the sale. No, Mr. Anderson cut in firmly, not even hiding his irritation. You've already shown us enough. Rick froze, humiliation burning into his skin. The owner gestured to another salesman nearby, younger, more respectful, and visibly nervous at suddenly being handed such an important client. James, please handle Mr. Cole's purchase from this moment on, and give him VIP treatment. Yes, sir, James rushed over, full of eager professionalism. Darius didn't smirk. He didn't throw one last insult. He simply nodded, keeping his dignity intact, something no one could take from him. As he followed James toward the dream car, he glanced once over his shoulder. Rick stood rooted in place, face pale, expression haunted by the truth. He had just tried to throw out a man the boss trusted more than him, and humiliation was the only thing Rick left the interaction owning. James hurried ahead to open the door of the midnight blue sports car, treating Darius with the kind of respect he should have received from the very beginning. The leather interior looked like it was stitched for royalty, and when Darius lowered himself into the driver's seat, the car seemed to hug him, claiming him, welcoming him, fitting him perfectly. He ran his hand over the steering wheel, and a slow smile crept across his face. This was what all those early mornings and late nights were for. Mr. Anderson leaned into the open door, his tone excited and sincere. You put your heart into your work, and it shows in everything you build. Consider this your turn to enjoy something other people admire. Darius nodded. Throat tight with gratitude, he refused to let spill out just yet. Thank you, sir. Means a lot. Behind them, Rick stood stiff as a statue, the embarrassment rolling off him hotter than the Texas sun. His earlier superiority had vanished, replaced by the realization that he'd just treated one of their most valuable customers like garbage. He shifted anxiously, eyes darting between his boss and Darius, silently begging for a moment to redeem himself. He stepped forward, voice cracking with forced enthusiasm. Mr. Cole, if there's anything you need, I'd be happy to— Rick! Mr. Anderson cut in sharply, not turning to look at him. You had your chance. You didn't want to serve him when you thought he was beneath you. You certainly won't serve him now. Those words hit harder than any insult could. Rick's mouth snapped shut. The humiliation was undeniable, and it was earned. Darius looked up from the driver's seat, his gaze level and calm. You judged me on dirt, he said quietly, and not on who I am. Rick finally met his eyes, guilt soaking into his expression. No excuses, no fake smile, just silence. Defeated. Mr. Anderson gestured for James. Take him on the test drive. Make sure he experiences the full power of this beauty. Then, he gave Darius a respectful nod. When you get back, we'll finalize your paperwork. Darius pressed the start button, engine roaring to life like a beast awakened. Heads snapped toward the sound, customers and employees turning to see the man they had underestimated, commanding one of the most expensive cars in the building. The irony was loud enough to drown out the engine. James climbed into the passenger seat, wide-eyed. Rick stepped back, shrinking into the shadows of the showroom. Darius shifted into gear. As he rolled forward, he caught Rick's reflection in the rearview mirror. Small, powerless, exposed. Tables hadn't just turned. They had flipped. And Darius was finally sitting at the head of the table. The test drive ends with the tires kissing the pavement back into the dealership. the engine purring like it knows it has just impressed its future owner. Darius steps out of the car with a confidence that feels natural, earned, as if he'd been meant to drive it his whole life. People who ignored him earlier now watch him with curiosity and a quiet shame. James leads him inside to finalize numbers. The office smells of polished wood and expensive ink. A framed photo of the owner shaking hands with city leaders hangs on the wall. This place was built to make buyers feel wealthy, but Darius doesn't need the illusion. He sits down across from James and places the thick envelope of cash on the desk, the flap opening slightly like the pages of a book telling his story. Every bill a chapter of labor, pain, and perseverance. James stares, blinking. "Sir, is that—" "All of it," Darius confirms. "Cash." He pulls out the stacks and sets them down one by one. Neat, crisp, undeniable. The sound of each bundle hitting the wooden desk echoes like a victory drum. Paperwork, warranties, signatures. Everything moves quickly now. Everyone wants to help the man Rick tried to push out. James hands him the final document. "Congratulations, Mr. Cole. The car is officially yours." Darius exhales, a weight lifting off his shoulders that he hadn't even realized was there. The weight of always having to prove himself. He smiles, thanking James sincerely. Mr. Anderson knocks lightly on the door before stepping in. His eyes land on the envelope now emptied, the car keys glimmering in Darius's hand. He gives a proud nod. "Hard work brought you here," the owner says. "Not a suit, not appearances. You." Darius stands, meeting the handshake with equal strength. "I appreciate you treating me with respect. From the start." "Respect is the bare minimum," Anderson replies. "You earned far more than that." As they shake hands, the office door remains open, giving the entire showroom a perfect view of the moment. Rick looks on from a distance, face pale, arms glued to his sides. The man who once stood taller than everyone now looks smaller than the carpet under his feet. Darius doesn't gloat. He doesn't need to. The cash on the table and the keys in his hand say everything for him. He walked in underestimated. Now the only number anyone sees is $90,000 paid in full. Darius stepped out of the office with the car keys in his hand, and for a moment, he just stood there, taking in everything around him. The same polished showroom floor that once felt hostile now reflected his confidence back at him. Employees whispered, the security guards pretended not to watch, and customers looked at him with curiosity and respect they didn't offer earlier. Rick stood off to the side, trying to shrink into the wallpaper, no longer the gatekeeper of anything. His salesman badge had never looked smaller. When his eyes met Darius's, he glanced down immediately, swallowed, and disappeared into the back office, too ashamed to stay. Darius didn't chase revenge with a smirk or a final insult. Sometimes silence hits harder. He walked toward the midnight blue sports car, its paint gleaming under showroom lights as if celebrating him. The door opened smoothly, and when he lowered himself into the driver's seat, the leather wrapped around him like a reward earned, not given. "Mr. Anderson stood by the exit and gave him one last nod of respect. "Enjoy it," he said. "No one deserves it more." Darius smiled. "Thank you, sir. And thank you for seeing me." He pressed the start button. The engine roared to life like thunder contained in metal. Heads turned. The sound alone declared success louder than any words could. As he rolled toward the glass doors, they slid open gracefully. Sunlight flooded the interior, and the car glided forward into the bright day outside. He turned up the radio, letting the bass vibrate through the seats as the heat shimmered off the asphalt. His dusty work truck sat in the reflection of his mirror for the last time. Proof of where he started, not where he belonged. With one hand on the wheel, wind streaming through the open windows, Darius drove past the dealership entrance. He didn't look back this time, not because he wanted to erase what happened, but because he had risen above it. People saw a man in dirty work clothes and assumed he had no success. They never saw the calluses that built it. Hard labor paid for that car. Dedication steered his future. Respect followed him out the door. He had arrived underestimated and left unignorable. As the city skyline came into view, Darius cracked a huge, unstoppable smile. Success isn't loud. It doesn't need permission, it simply drives forward. And today, he drives it home.